There we go. Okay, sorry about that. Right, so okay, now just a quick briefing. Not everybody attending is actually a member of the EU-CIP consortium, so just a very brief introduction to the project. EU-CIP, which is European Knowledge Hub and Policy Testbed for Critical Infrastructure Protection. It aims to develop a pan-European knowledge network for enhancing critical infrastructure protection and resilience. It's a coordination and support action. There are 3 other projects in the same who have been funded through the same call. And EU-CIP has a consortium of 20 partners made up of companies, research organizations, and critical infrastructures. We are also very intimately associated with the European Cluster for Securing Critical Infrastructures Network. The aim is to assist in developing evidence-based policies, and the whole point is to improve the innovation capacity of critical infrastructure operators, authorities, and innovators. And with innovators, we include researchers, companies, including SMEs. Just a brief overview of the ECSCI network. There are 30+ projects, and it deals with all types of critical infrastructure. Now, the focus in these projects tends to be towards cyber, physical, and hybrid threats, but there's also, work dealing with natural hazards and so forth. So there's quite a variety and all manner of infrastructure. Now, during the project, as part of Task 4.2, which is led by ICP, we're developing some innovation support services. The basis of this is to help innovators commercialize their results. This includes guidance in IPR management, business modeling, marketing and promotion, and identifying markets and innovation areas. The very first module, which we're starting with, and this is today's talk, is dealing with market assessment and problem definition. The second, which will be covered by a webinar next month, deals with solution alignment and business planning. And the third module is go-to-market and business support. And we'll do that present that webinar in December. Now, the general organization of this training is that this webinar will basically be each of the webinars are more general information. They're not sector specific. And as you can see, they're great group webinars. Following this, we'll be providing, I say homework, but they're basically a series of templates to help guide interested parties in developing business plans and other such materials. And then based on when you present your homework, so to speak, we'll be offering one-on-one mentoring and advising sessions. This will be more specialized and tending towards being sector specific. We'll be doing this in 2 cycles and hopefully finishing up around month 34, and we'll be reporting in the next deliverable. And of course, we'll be welcoming your feedback following this. Our speaker today is Dr. Colin Keogh. He's an innovation engineer with Inlecom. He has extensive experience, not just in engineering, but in business development. His emphasis has been on energy, manufacturing, and healthcare sectors. He's worked with a number of startups and spin-outs, as well as within EU-funded projects. And where he leads actions relating to validating, commercializing, and launching new solutions. He's also heavily involved in helping develop, or if you like, mentoring and tutoring groups like SMEs within Ireland. And his main focus is to act as an innovation and commercialization expert and to provide the proactive support to advance innovation, patent protection, and to help partners reach the commercialization goals that are frequently a feature of EU-funded projects. And without further ado, I will now pass on to Colin.
Excellent, brilliant. Thank you, Kevin. So, welcome everyone. Thank you all for attending, and thank you, Kevin, for the introduction. So yeah, as Kevin mentioned, I work with ICP in particular, and we work on a range of innovation identification and commercialization support actions in a range of Horizon Europe and H2020 commercialization based projects. So ranging from idea and innovation identification, patent filing, and then business plan generation and creation. But also in my past, I've been heavily involved in the actual nuts and bolts commercialization of early stage innovative companies in the startup sector, in particularly, mainly focusing in kind of Europe and North America. As Kevin had mentioned, the engineering and technology sector. So not only have I worked in the commercialization sector for Horizon Europe project, also then done it in real life with very, very little money myself commercializing and rolling out startup companies and activities. So as Kevin mentioned, this is kind of module 1. Following the cadence of the EU-CIP delivery model that he presented, I'll just provide you some basic overviews on commercialization training, the importance of commercialization, touch a little bit on market and customer identification. And then after today's webinar, we'll follow up with a range of tools and templates and structures that will help you kind of identify your markets, your customer needs, your problems that you intend to solve. And then through a process of submitting that completed kind of templates to ourselves and the EU-CIP project, we can then work on facilitating one-to-one advisory sessions with ourselves and other members of our team, allowing us to cover a wide range of technical areas and research-based areas in that case. So you should be able to see my slides. Can you see it, Kevin?
Yes, no problem.
Perfect. So this module in particular is just module 1, commercialization training, an overview of the importance of commercialization. So what we're going to cover then today is I'll give you a brief introduction to the module. We'll talk a little bit about understanding market assessment. We'll move on to defining the problem, which in the startup sector and any innovation sector is one of, if not the most important area of any new innovation and any new innovation action. And it's something that unfortunately an awful lot of players and actors overlook. They rush towards a solution. So we'll focus a bit on the problem. We'll touch on identifying target customers. We'll move on to achieving product market fit, what product market fit is and how you actually get there. And then I'll briefly overview the tools and templates that accompany this first module. And then again, give you a reminder on how to engage with the one-on-one advisory sessions. So as we go through, please do put any comments you have in the chat. And then when I'm finished the delivery of the actions, I'll open the floor for questions, comments, feedback, and then I'll have a look into the chat to see if we have any questions to address at the end. So as Kevin mentioned, ICP's role in EU-CIP is the delivery of this commercialization training to the project and partners and companies that are under the banner of EU-CIP or engaging either internally or externally with EU-CIP. We have proposed a three-module structure. This is module 1, as Kevin said, on market assessment and problem definition. Module 2 will follow up looking at solution alignment and business planning, focusing an awful lot around how you engage with your customers and how you build out predictive or future-looking business models using tools like business model canvases and value proposition canvases. And then finally, module 3 will be about go-to-market and business supports. So what sort of actions and what sort of areas will help you bring your product or your innovation to the market? What sort of business supports are there? Things like patents, intellectual property, and the intricacies of organizational structures and team dynamics. And with these 3 modules, the accompanying tools and frameworks and templates that go with it, and then the subsequent one-on-one advisory sessions, it will allow us to give tailored and targeted commercialization support to project partners and actors engaging via EU-CIP. So as you mentioned, I won't go over this again. It's here for reference. We'll provide general information in these training group webinars. We will then follow that up with templated homework and feedback documents and templates for partners to complete. And then submission of those documents then will kick off the one-on-one mentoring, the sector specific and the more specialized feedback. And then we'll repeat the cycle as we go throughout the EU-CIP project as a whole. So introduction to module 1. So what we're going to talk a little bit about is the significance of the commercialization journey. So what is commercialization at its basis? So commercialization is a process of introducing some form of new product or new service into the market. It is super important. It is the driver of most of the world's largest economies, and it's the driver of all of the technical innovations and business growths you see around us. So currently I'm sitting here in Ireland, in Europe, and innovation and commercialization of the outputs of innovation has been one of the major drivers that has driven economic growth, not just in Europe, but also in Ireland in particular. So, the ICT technologies, online technologies and services, artificial intelligence, all of these new technologies that emerge into the market as concepts or ideas, the actual deployment of them into functioning operational business concept is that journey of commercialization in itself. So it supports and enhances economic growth. It helps meet customer needs, so either current customer needs or even future customer needs. New technologies and new innovations might come before the customer market or the user market is even aware they need them. So, innovation and the commercialization of these innovation actions allow you to meet customer needs. And then finally, the commercialization of these actions can impart significant competitive advantages. So, whether that's in ICT, whether that's in fintech, whether that's in banking or internet technologies, if you commercialize and get a reputation for commercializing in a specific sector, you can become a market leader. It can impart significant reputational and competitive advantage to you, as well as first mover advantage. You can be the first actor in a specific sector with a new innovation that helps meet customer needs, and then the economic growth that will be driven will be the economic growth of your company. So as you can see on the right hand side, this is a nice representation of the complexity of a commercialization journey. It can be very, very intimidating for an awful lot of people, but ultimately it's a series of relatively simple but quite detailed individual steps that just link together. So, from having an initial idea to conducting your initial market research, to maybe developing a business plan and raising some funding, to getting into the stage of market development when you're trying to actually or product development when you're trying to develop your actual product solution. You might include product design. You might have tests, trials, demonstration sessions. You might need some more funding in order for you to move to large scale manufacturing or large scale deployment. You will then get into the real action of commercialization, where you're delivering your actual service to the market. After you're active in the market, you might look at managing regulation changes, after sales support and services, obsolescence mitigation, and then any other further improvement or product development. You might then have modifications to how you grow. You might have an exit strategy. You might sell to a competitor. You might sell your IP, or ultimately you will evolve into the business growth option stage, where you're happily working in a specific sector, servicing customer needs in that area. You might move into new sectors. You might sell. You might continue. At that stage, you've successfully commercialized your idea, and then you're into the day-to-day running of a successful business. So hopefully everyone on this call will get to that stage at some stage, but this module is on to kind of introduce you to this world of commercialization. So very, very basically, at its core, the process of commercialization has a number of different steps, but kind of homogenized together. There are kind of 5 main steps. The first one is ideation. You come up with your idea. You're creating your new innovation. It might come from a problem you face in your daily life. It might come from an output from a research project. It might come from an idea that a staff member has. It might come from a sudden brainwave. It doesn't really matter. You generate some form of idea that you think is new, that you think there's a market for, that you think there's a future potential for in general. After that, you develop it, you refine it, you make it work, you optimize it. Maybe you're building an app, maybe you're building a product, maybe you build a delivery service. You just develop it out into some form of functional element that shows your idea working in practice. Once you have a real the demonstrable example of your idea or your innovation working in practice, you then move on to testing. You want to test it with your ideal customers. Who wants it? How do they engage with it? Is it too cheap? Is it too expensive? How do you contact them? How do you get to them? You test your developmental product in the market, learn as much as you can during that testing phase, and integrate your learning into that development cycle. Maybe you need to improve the product. Maybe you need to target a new market. Maybe you need to advertise in a different way. All of this testing will help you improve your innovation offering, and then will ultimately help improve your commercialization process and its chance of success. Once you've tested it and once you're happy with it, you'll enter the market. You'll enter some form of economic or commercial market. You will put your product for sale, and then customers will have the opportunity to buy that market. You might enter multiple different markets at once. You might enter multiple different sectors. You might enter just one. But your market entry strategy is also an important part of your commercialization process. You don't want to bite off too much early on. If you're a small company of 2 or 3 individuals, you don't want to try and have to sell globally. An awful lot of work. Maybe it's better off focusing on one closed local market that you understand and grow organically over time. So developing an appropriate market entry strategy can not only save you an awful lot of stress and hassle and money in the long run, but will also position you well and again increase your chances of commercialization success. And then once you've entered the market, you grow. Hopefully you have a runaway hit. Hopefully everyone wants your product and you can grow rapidly. If that happens, great. If it doesn't happen, you can then look at maybe you need a pivot, maybe you need a change, maybe you need to move into a different market, move into a different region, move into a different price point. But ultimately, you're trying to get to a stage where your innovation in a commercial market is successful and it's growing. You're getting more users and more customers, and ultimately your company is getting more and more profits every month as you grow. This is the ultimate kind of overview of commercialization in general between these individual 5 stages. But important thing to note here, it's not linear. It doesn't move in one direction from left to right. It doesn't just move from ideation to development to testing. It is cyclical. You will jump and move forward and move back throughout this process. You might get to your testing stage and realize there's some problems in the product as you've developed it. You have to move back to your developmental stage to improve it. Maybe you get into your market entry stage and realize the country you want to operate in, your solution offering is exactly what they do not want. So maybe you go right back to the beginning and maybe re-ideate and come up with a new option or a new avenue. Maybe your growth and you're out and selling and your product isn't as successful as you thought it might be. Maybe you need to go back into your testing phase, test your assumptions, test your designs, and maybe test a new improvement or iteration. So this process is iterative. It is fluid. You'll move forward and backwards. Some stages might go very, very quickly. Other stages might take much, much longer. That is perfectly normal. Commercialization is a fluid and it is not a one-size-fits-all approach. So on that, as we work through, you want to try and understand the market you're going to sell in. And it's very important that the idea there, the concept there is called market assessment. If you're going to sell into a specific market, you want to conduct a market assessment. So what is a market assessment? And then you also want to do something called market sizing. So a market analysis in that case is you examining your target market, looking at the dynamics of that market, looking at the trends in the market, and looking at competitors and competition in that specific area. So we might be selling, choose a market. We might be selling mobile phones, and we have to decide, are we selling at the top end of the market where they want high performance? We're competing with iPhones, the brand new iPhones with the best cameras and the fastest speed and the highest space. And if we do, what is the dynamics in that space? The products are expensive. Consumers don't generally switch very, very often. They invest an awful lot in the purchase because they're expensive. The trends are moving towards much sleeker, much more designed objects. And you're competing in that space with some massive global organizations, Apple, Samsung, these sorts of actors in that space. So you'll choose or you'll identify your appropriate market, and then you'll analyze that market to see, do you actually fit in it? Now, if I was proposing to sell a mobile phone and the mobile phone was at the lower end of the market, it was €100, for example, we would not be competing with Apple. We would not be competing with Samsung. We are not competing in that high-end market. We're competing in a different one. So the dynamics will be different. The trends will be different. The competition will be different. So we have to look at the right market and analyze it to make sure we're going after the right bite of that right market. Similarly, you want to undertake market sizing. And what you're trying to do here is you want to estimate the potential volume or the potential value of the market you're going after. This is important because for 2 reasons. One, if you have a very, very large market with lots and lots of value in it, it should be very, very busy. There should be lots of competitors. There'll be lots of competition. There'll be very, very well-funded competitors to your offering. So it becomes a very tough market to operate in. You really need to differentiate yourself differently. On the other end, if it's a very, very small market, also known as a niche market, that might have a a much smaller headline value, but the needs of your users in there can be much more specific. So if you have a small market with a low value with specific needs, if your product does a really good job of addressing all of those needs, you can dominate that market, you can capitalize on it, you can have all of the customers, and you can still run a very successful business, even if it's in a tiny specialized market. So market analysis and market sizing is very, very important. So what you're trying to do ultimately is create an image as you see on the right hand side. So this is a graphic called a TAM SAM SOM graphic. And what this does is it shows that in the blue circle, the total addressable market, the whole market you're operating in. That might be the global mobile phone market. The second level is your SAM, and that's your serviceable addressable market. So what sort of market can you reach? It's unrealistic to be able to get all of it at the beginning. Maybe you'll grow into that, but you need to identify a serviceable market first of all. So that might be in the total global mobile phone market. Maybe you're going to go after high-end mobile phones above 1,000 euros in Europe. You've just focused it down into a much more manageable market. And then the third aspect you have is called a SOM, and that's a share of the market. So that's your sales divided by your serviceable addressable market. What sort of target are you ultimately going after? So using my example, if I'm targeting mobile phones that cost more than 1,000 euros in Europe, that might be a 10 billion euro industry or market. We can't realistically say we're going to get 90% of that market because that's very, very unrealistic. Maybe we'll target 1%, maybe we'll target 10%. What percentage of that overall market that you're going after do you think you could get, and after how long? This gives a great idea of the dynamics of how your company will interact with that market. So why are these things important at all? First of all, they help you identify opportunities. They help you find gaps and find underserved market segments in markets around the world. So it helps you map opportunities where you could sell, where you shouldn't sell, and is there any gaps anyone else has missed? It helps you manage a risk. So it helps you understand and plan for any potential challenges. If you're competing with no competitors in the market, great, it should be relatively easy. But what happens if a competitor comes into your market? It will allow you to plan for that risk and deal with it and work around it. It will help inform your strategy. So it'll help drive the decisions on product development, marketing, and pricing, because all of these will directly be influenced by markets. And then it helps build credibility. So if you're an early stage company or a spin out company, you're trying to build credibility in a global world. So if you have done if you really understand your market and have assessed it well and analyzed it well and have sized it well, it really does build credibility. It shows potential investors or potential other collaborators that your idea has some viability of a business venture success, that it might actually work. And the more details and better you have, the more comfortable investors or collaborators will feel on your proposal. The more research you do, the better position you'll be. So when you're doing these market sizing activities, there's two different approaches in order to do them. One's from the top down and the other one's from the bottom up. So a top down market sizing activity, takes broad industry data and you narrow it down to specific segments. So top down, an example might be the mobile phone example, as we said. We can get information on the amount of mobile phones sold in Europe, and we should be able to get information on the price points of those mobile phones. So, we can take that as a top down approach. There might be 10 billion euros of mobile phones sold in Europe every year. That's our top down. And then we can work on what sections of that market we're going to go after. Whereas the opposite direction is bottom up. And what you do there is estimate your market based on specific values and extrapolate that out to wider markets. So what you might do is, this is very common in food businesses in particular. You might say, I live just outside Dublin in Ireland. In Dublin at the minute, Mexican food is very, very interested. There has been 20 Mexican restaurants have opened and they're all doing exceptionally well financially. If we say there's two, three successful Mexican restaurants in Dublin and we want to build a chain of Mexican restaurants, we could then scale that up and say We're going to target 20 cities across Europe with 2 restaurants in each city, and then you can build a market from the ground up. So the 2 different approaches are both equally valid, and they both suit different kind of business activities and business sectors. So from that, you need information. Where do you get your information from? An important distinction here is the difference between market research and business intelligence. So, business intelligence and market intelligence. Sometimes these are confused by people. Business intelligence helps you transform data that you collect on how your business runs into information, and that information then into knowledge to help you optimize your business decision processes. Whereas market intelligence looks externally to your business and incorporates a comprehensive assessment and analysis of the critical components of your business and how your business interacts with the market around it. So business intelligence is how your business actually runs day to day, and market intelligence is how your business interacts with the market around it. Okay, so first of all, market research and market intelligence, looking at that individual market. Market research itself, right? So market research helps you identify potential markets. It will help indicate how you're going to operate in them. And it is a vitally important component for any startup company or new innovative company or output. It is essential. Understanding the needs and wants of your target audience, target customer, and target market can really be the difference between success and failure ultimately. You need to get as much information about the people you're targeting as possible in order for you to really tailor your solution to meet what they want and what they need. So, an example of a couple of question prompts you might ask regarding market research. What problem does your product or service solve? Who will buy your product or service? Why are they buying it at all? Where will they buy it? You know, are they buying it in specialty shops, department stores, online? Do they buy it on their phone? What do you need to do what do you need to charge, you know, financially to make a healthy profit? And will people actually pay that? What's the price point of your product you need? And will your customers actually sustain that price point? And then what products or services will your product be competing with in that specific market? So again, very rooted in the market around you and the market you're operating in. Whereas business intelligence is about the day-to-day running and gathering of data for your individualized business. Okay, so it's how you do business. So whether you're already running as a business or you're proposing a new innovation or a new area, you still need to know how it would run. So, you know, how do you do business? The number of products you ship, your total monthly sales, your cost of goods sold, your compound annual growth rate, your monthly recurring revenue. These are the nuts and bolts of how your company or your new innovation will actually run within the context of your organization or your new organization. I consider these the nuts and bolts details of your business, and these will inform the growth of your business and allow you to track how your business and how this new innovation is actually running in practice, in reality. So you need to do some market research. There are techniques to help and support market research. And this is a great graphic from Qualtrics that I really like that shows you the 2 main different types of market-based research you can do: primary and secondary. Primary market research provides results specifically about your company or your new proposed innovation. It really focuses on the actual company or the actual product you're creating. So, you know, you can look at focus group surveys and interviews, but there is a cost here in doing these specific things. Whereas secondary-based market research involves you applying the results of previously completed or third-party studies to your situation. So the difference in between a primary and secondary response would be if we're trying to estimate the total interest in a customer base in our high-end mobile phones. Primary research might be us conducting a large-scale pan-European survey, surveying our potential customers on how much and what features they want in a phone. That's primary research. Whereas secondary research might be us looking at sales data for 2022 or 2023 to indicate that were compiled and completed by somebody else, and then we can extrapolate research and information from the amount of high-end mobile phones sold. So very similar, but they're quite different in how they're actually applied. So primary research, your goal here is research conducted firsthand by either by yourself or by a company, but actioned by yourself for a specific purpose. So, methods for primary research. You might do surveys and questionnaires. You might do structured, semi-structured, or unstructured interviews. You might make observations or field studies. You might convene focus groups, or you might actually conduct experiments and trials. There's a number of advantages and disadvantages here. Advantages include, it can be really specific to your actual research or your actual kind of commercial needs. It's current and it's timely. It's very of the moment. It's not out of date. It's not connected a long time ago. It gives you very up-to-date information. And then you get direct feedback from your target audience, which is always valuable. But the disadvantage are it is very time consuming. It can be more expensive because you need to actually conduct it and there's time costs associated with that. And then it requires resources in order for you to collect the data and then ultimately analyze that data. Whereas secondary research actions, these utilize, as said, existing research and data collected by other people. So things like academic journals and publications, government and industry reports, news articles and media, books and historical records, data aggregators and statistical databases. These can all provide rich secondary data when you're trying to assess your specific markets. They do have their advantages as well, very, very cost effective. Generally, this information is free or quite cheap to acquire. It can be quick to access a wide and broad range of information, and it can provide you with historical context and changes over the years. But the disadvantages are it may not be specifically tailored to what you actually want regarding your customer or market research. The data can be outdated, and the quality and the relevance can vary between platforms and providers and even fields and sectors. So, there are some kind of disadvantages to these research actions and activities. So a good way I like to do it is focusing on primary research and breaking primary research down into quantitative or qualitative research. So this is the academic in me speaking. Quantitative research are numbers, conducting in-person surveys on uh, price points, doing web or social surveys, including secondary financial research in your actual primary research goals. Whereas primary qualitative research then focuses on behavioral research, focus groups, and one-to-one interviews. Quantitative is looking for hard facts and numbers, whereas qualitative is looking for more qualitative and contextual information, how people interact with your idea, how they respond to the idea, how they engage with the idea, that sort of thing. So including these two quantitative and qualitative layers in your research, again, will provide you with extra details, extra resources, and another layer of context when you're conducting this specific research group. So something I always recommend people do again is if you intend to embark on any of this market research, is plan it before you begin. Deploy a phased research approach. And I quite like 5 phases. Phase 1 is planning, where you identify the goals of your research you want to do, and then include any external secondary resources or research that you have. Phase 2 then is preparing to implement your actual research. So, if you're doing an interview, you develop interview questions. If you're running a focus group, you develop the flow and the structure of your focus group. And then you might recruit or advertise for interviewees or respondents or people to complete your survey. Your third phase then is the field work or the actual work. You conduct your interviews, you run your focus group, you gather and collect your data, and then you summarize it after it's been done. Many people do field work, they do interviews, they do focus groups, they collect the data, but then they don't do anything with that data. So there are other phases, and the 2 phases is phase 4 and phase 5. Phase 4 is analysis. When you've collected and completed your interviews, you need to review your findings and develop some form of conclusions from them. Having interview responses from 100 customers is very beneficial, but you can't read them all. Other people can't read them all. You need to review them and you need to develop conclusions. It might be something as simple as out of 100 respondents, 99 of them were very, very keen to buy our product now, which is a great indicator for success. Develop even simple conclusions to guide your progress. And then what you want to do is you want to plan to take a specific action arising from these conclusions. Decide what you're going to do differently. Decide if everything is perfect and you're going to continue on the same path or you need to change, and then implement some form of change. It might be continue as usual, redesign our product, do a little bit more work on who our target customer is, maybe move into a different market. Planning out a research approach will maximize the potential impact and the outcome of your research action. Okay, so that was market research. You're looking and exploring a particular market, a particular area, a particular customer need. An important bit, and I mentioned before, is the problem. You need to define your problem. I've met thousands of companies, both large and small, that when I ask them what problem you're actually trying to solve, they can't really answer it very succinctly. They might talk around the problem. I might get a different answer from a different person depending on who I asked for. So defining your problem, and in particular the pain points that that problem causes for people, is super beneficial. So a definition, what is a pain point? A pain point refers to specific problems or challenges faced by your potential customers. It might be the interface of the website doesn't allow the user to buy what they want. It might be the credit card processor doesn't accept the credit card that they have from a specific region. The specific pain points in the engagement with the potential customer. So why is it important? It directly relates to your customers' needs and desires. This is the problem you will solve for them. They will have a specific need or a desire to solve a problem. And if that problem is most likely going to be one of these pain points, if your solution solves that problem, reduces that pain point, they're willing to buy it, they're willing to use it. It will drive the value proposition of your product and service. So a value proposition is the proposition you sell your idea to the customers around. It's a reduction in cost, an improvements in efficiency, a simpler process, whatever it may be. Identifying these pain points will tell you what to focus on when you're conveying this value proposition to users. And then thirdly, it is a foundation for a solution orientated innovation. Solution orientated innovations work much, much better. They solve specific problems for users, and those problems are these pain points. So what are the benefits you get from addressing them? One, your customers, their satisfaction improves. They will be happier. The problems you will be solving for them are more impactful, bigger, and more important. It will allow you to differentiate yourself competitively in the market. If you can clearly identify what problems you solve and your competitors can't, you're more likely to get that customer. And then it also then helps, has potential for increased sales and increased loyalty. If you can identify the issues you solve for your users, if they buy it and then that actually solves their issue, you've probably created a loyal customer, and then we'll keep working with you in the future and less likely to jump to a competitor. So an example here is any of the ride sharing apps we have, whether it's Go Now or Uber or Bolt or any of those ride sharing applications that you've heard of. They address the pain points of waiting for taxis and inconsistent pricing. So, that they've clearly identified very articulate pain points, and lots of people did not want to wait for a taxi. They didn't want inconsistent pricing between taxis or between cities. So they will very happy to engage with these ride sharing apps as a service. Okay. So when you're trying to define your problem, the best approach is to focus on your customer's perspective. Be customer centric and utilize a customer centric approach to development. You want to design products and services based on what your customer wants, needs, and prefers. You don't want to create a solution and then go looking for a problem. You want to identify a problem and then create a solution for that problem. That has significantly increases your chance of success. So what are the benefits of these customer-centric approaches? You get better alignment with the demands of your market. You're going to meet your market in a much better way because you address its issues. It enhances customer loyalty and advocacy. Again, because you're involving your customers in the development, they feel loyal, they feel committed, they feel involved. And then it reduces the risk of a product market misfit. And what that means is it reduces the chance of you launching a product into the market and that market not actually wanting your product because you're not solving something that your customer views as important. So you need to understand customer perspectives. That customer centricity, you need to identify what customers' perspectives are. So how do you do it? You engage directly with them. Interviews, feedback sessions, one-to-one, email responses, comment boxes, comment forms. Let your customers tell you the good and the bad about the product or offering you're engaging around them about. You want to observe behavior and usage patterns. What is happening? How do your customers use it? When do we engage with it? When do they buy it? How do they buy it? Look around the solution itself and see if you can garner information from that. And then maybe create and study customer personas. And a persona is an idealized a story or person, an imaginary fictitious customer that represents the majority of your customers. So I'll touch on personas again in a little bit. So an example here again is to go to Apple. Apple's focus on user-friendly designs and experience stems from them prioritizing their customers' perspectives. So I'm not a big fan of Apple products, but they are extremely user-friendly and the experience is second to none. So they are very, very good at what they do because they focused on customer needs. So when you're working with customer perspectives, you need to validate your assumptions. You might assume a customer wants a specific thing. That's a risky thing to do. You want to validate it. You want your customer, preferably lots of them, to tell you, yes, that assumption is right. And that is the process of validation. And it does matter. You know, it ensures that the assumptions you've made align with the conditions of the market, and it reduces the risk of you making costly missteps. And take it from experience, I've made many of these costly missteps in the past with companies. You know, you don't want, if you don't want to lose 100,000 euros on a product because you have not validated your assumptions and it doesn't really solve the problem you think it does, so your customers are not interested. So how do you validate these assumptions and actions? You can use surveys to gauge interest and potential demand to make sure there is actually enough, there's validation for how many users you think are in the market for your product. You might do A/B testing for product features or market approaches. And what that is you presenting different variations of the same product with different features or different marketing approaches, testing that with customers to identify which one actually works best. And then you might do pilot launches or soft launches in order to test the waters. You know, maybe launching your product to a select number of close customers that will help develop it and kind of validate your assumptions from then on in. You can include market data here. You can look towards industry reports and publications. You can look towards competitor analysis and benchmarking actions. You can even look towards customer reviews and feedback on similar products or similar product lines. Again, these should help validate your assumptions. So the benefits of this, it will help inform your decision making. It will help you optimize your resource allocation, so you actually spend money and manpower on the right areas and the right assumptions, and then will increase your confidence in product launch and scaling. It'll make you much more comfortable, and your investors and your market and your customers much more comfortable you're actually solving what you should be solving. So an example here is Dropbox's video launch. So if you're interested, I recommend you look up Dropbox's initial video demonstration. Dropbox released, you know, Dropbox is like a Google Drive or file storage location. It was a brand new concept when they released it. So they released an initial video demonstration. The platform didn't work. People did not understand digital file repositories at that stage. So they released a video explaining how it would work, and they had a wait list to go with it. So when the video launched, tens of thousands of people signed up to the wait list to get access to it. And that acted as a very good, strong sign of validation to Dropbox to say, yes, there is a customer demand here. It's big enough to justify us actually launching. And then they began their full scale launch and rollout. So one of the best ways that I kind of suggest that people do is work on a problem definition statement. As you can see, a template on the right hand side. You want to create and craft a clear problem statement. What problem are you solving with your specific business, company, innovation? That statement should be clear, it should be concise, and it should be actionable. So I've given you an example of a template to the right hand side, and it is a problem statement structure. It allows you to state your product and service offering. It helps you very clearly articulate who that product is for in the customer segment. It allows you to indicate what your customers want. So basically, it's a thing called jobs to be done, what jobs your solution is doing for your target customer. And then it gives you a chance to explain how it does it. You know, it reduces lag time, it avoids complexity, you know, and it shows an impact on a particular customer pain. You can add 2, 3, 4, as many as you like. And if needed, in the gray bit, it allows you to demark your problem for something else. You know, a statement like unlike a competing value proposition. So it's allowing you to say, we do X, Y, and Z, but not like this person that's already in this space. So this clear problem statement, it can take a while to craft, but once it's crafted and you're happy with it, that becomes how you tell people what your company or your innovation does. And everyone in your company tells people that same statement. Our product or service helps a specific customer segment who want to solve these specific issues by doing these specific actions for our ideas, unlike a competitor that does something else. Very clear, very concise, and very actionable. This problem definition then aligns with your target customers, and you tailor that to your target customers. This process is called customer segmentation. So it's very, very important for you to know who your audience is. You know, you want to tailor your products or tailor your marketing to specific segments of society. There is not really one product that is going to be super appealing to every sector of society. You have gender, you have race, you have country, you have business, you have age-based segmentation and demographics that will have an impact on specific demands. If you're trying to sell the same product to under 12, under 12s in Europe as you are over 70s in Japan, you're going to have a problem there. They're very unlikely to be the same target customer. And if they are, you're going to have to market and engage with them very, very differently. So it allows you to make efficient use of marketing resources. It will enhance your customer interactions and relationships, but more importantly, will help you tailor your product and your offering to specific segments of a customer market. So how do you do customer segmentation? So segmentation itself is the process of grouping customers by similar characteristics. So a good example I use here is think of it like planning a wedding reception. You group the tables together for friends, family, separate tables for food, separate tables for work colleagues. You don't just mix everyone up randomly. You segment people based on how they know each other, how they relate to each other, and common aspects around them as an individual. So a good approach I use and recommend people research is customer segmentation models. And I like the concept of 9. So 9 customer segmentation models. And you can see them in the image there. Demographic, you can segregate people, customer segregation for marketing and targeted business plans based on demographics. It could be age, it could be location, it could be job, whatever it may be. You can do it based on behaviors. It could be purchasing behaviors. It could be engagement behaviors. It could be lifestyle behaviors. Again, you segment based on specific behavioral dynamics. It could be psychographic. And psychographic could be how you engage with psychological actions, feelings, motivations, allegiances towards specific points, concerns, fears. You might have value-based, low end, medium end, or high end. You can segment based on that. You might have geographic, countries, regions, towns, societies, even economic geographic areas, global north, global south, that sort of thing. It could be technographic, specifically focusing particularly on how people engage with your offering. It might be digital native, it might be online native, it might be traditional world based. You could have needs based customer segmentation, and you could look at the needs of individual customer segments, or you could have firmographic segmentation, looking at business dynamics, business companies, and business actions. The final one then is something called life cycle stage customer segmentation. And it's about the stage in which your customer interacts and how often they interact with it. So is your product a once-off, like a cup of coffee? There's minimal life cycle interaction in there. You buy a cup of coffee, you're happy with it or you're not, and then you move on. Whereas if you buy a car or you buy a house or you buy a computer, the organization you buy it from, if you will probably have a life cycle engagement with them. You might research, you might buy, you might have problems, you might fix, you might buy again. So you need to look at the life cycle, and you can include life cycle customer segmentation in this area as well. So again, 9 different segmentation models. Choosing one and working around it is always a good start for your area and your innovation. In order to go with these segmentation models, there's a concept called persona development. So persona development and personas help you set idealized customer types to support the development of your solutions, marketing, and business plans. So these aren't real people. They're like a collection of people. It's like a summary of the majority of your customers. It can include demographics, psychographics, behaviors. It can have needs, it can have actions. You can break it down as little or as much as you want. One example, as you see on the right-hand side. This person doesn't exist, but we're selling a product to her. She has an age, an education, a life status, an occupation, a location, her tech literacy, a comment from her that says, I'm used to using online services. I usually do online shopping from Instagram. Areas about her personality, how she likes to pay, platforms she likes to engage upon, brands she's associated with, her biography, her core needs, her frustrations. These are not real people, but they can help you create a generalized view of your target customer. And then you can tailor your marketing, your engagement, your development, or even your research plans towards these individuals. So when you're getting into it, you also then want to, and you have your personas, you have your market information, you have your demographic maps. You want to look at analyzing customer behaviors and preferences. So how do you do that? And, I think there's two important aspects there. If you're looking at engaging with potential customers and evaluating their behaviors and preferences, the two things I would recommend would be use tools and techniques to gather insights from them. And then don't forget about the importance of continuous feedback. Okay. So tools and techniques for gathering insights. Lots of different options. Most of them you'll be familiar with. Surveys, online, in-app, in-store, a range of different online platforms you can use. You can look at analytics, monitor user activity on websites or applications. Google Analytics, Mixpanel, Hotjar. Again, more websites and solutions that allow you to track these analytics. You might convene focus groups. You might gather small, diverse groups of customers and discuss and observe reactions to products or concepts with them. You might facilitate one-to-one interviews, one-on-one discussions. They could be in person, they could be over the phone, they can be video conference, whatever you want. But again, to get that richer one-to-one information, you could conduct observational studies, allowing you to monitor customer interactions with your products in real time. You can do it in person, you could do it in store, you could use usability testing platforms, or even third-party providers. Or finally, you could use something like social media listening. You might monitor for brand mentions, keyword mentions, sentiment mentions, and there's a number of tools that will help you position that too. Brandwatch, Mention, Hootsuite. Again, all about gathering these informations that will help you inform customer behaviors and preferences. But again, as I mentioned, you want to update. You want to set up a continuous feedback approach. You don't just ask a question and then take the answer. You want to iterate upon it. So the goals here are stay updated. Customer preferences do evolve. So make sure you regularly ask for feedback in order to keep track with what your customers need. You want to look at actually implementing the feedback in some form of product improvement. So use feedback to refine your product features, address your bugs, introduce new offerings. You want to build up trust. When you're asking for feedback, that increases trust. It demonstrates that you value and actually do something based on the feedback of loyal, trusting customers. It helps you identify trends. It can detect emerging trends, shifts in markets, shifting customer needs. It will reduce something called churn, and churn is a startup concept. What it means is a customer might buy from you once, but then won't buy from you again. So, it helps you adjust this churn. It helps address concerns quickly, which means you retain customers, they don't get a bad experience and they don't move on. And then finally, it can optimize marketing efforts. Understanding what the preferences are of users or your market can help you tailor your marketing activities again into the future. You don't want to be selling using old techniques in a new changed market. So all of this stuff, again, comes from the personas, the customer interactions, and the customer identifications. What this is important for is the two elements of having a successful company, as I said, are a solution or a product or a proposal that meets the needs of customers. Those two things come together in a concept called product market fit. So product market fit is a business concept term that occurs when a significant enough group of people in a target market have found enough value in your product in order to pay for it regularly. So that basically means you don't have good product market fit if you're selling a small amount of your product into the market. If you've hit enough and a significant group of a target market that are willing to regularly use your product, you're working towards product market fit. This is when it starts reliable and trackable recurring revenue streams. So you have monthly recurring revenue. It's setting the foundation for a successful business or a successful concept. When you hit it, it reduces the need for external investment because you're self-funding. And then your goal here, if you have a new company, a new innovation, a new startup, whatever it may be, your goal is to hit this product market fit before you run out of money. You want to hit self-sustaining financial recurring revenue with a product market fit before you run out of your initial funding money and have to close or have to give up on the idea. Okay, so the best way to describe it is a diagram. If you take the different stages of development of a market or a product or even an interest cycle, you'll have developing the product, introducing the product, growing the market, reaching market maturity, and then a decline in market, because that market's always declining. A new product comes along, a new solution comes along, you have just got to the end of your market. Product market fit occurs between introduction and growth. After you've introduced your market, as you start to grow and you're penetrating and you're getting more customers, you get product market fit when you are starting to grow in people that aren't your introductory target market. So it's when you really start growing. It's when your revenue is doubling every month. It's when your customer base is doubling every week, potentially. That's when the growth phase of your company or your innovation or idea starts. That happens when you hit that product market fit. So how do you measure it? How do you know you're getting there? The concept for measuring here is called traction. So traction, not traction as in a car or a tire. Traction is a measure of a product's engagement with the market. Investors care about traction over everything else in reality. It's the numbers that show your customers are engaging financially with your product or your solution or your idea. Okay, so think of it like this. There's two pieces to a successful deployed innovation or company. That's the product. That's what you control. That's what you develop. That's what you create. And then there's the market, the external market conditions. You do not control the market conditions. So when you're trying to integrate or, sell into a specific market, lots and lots of people focus too much on the product early on and they ignore the market. So they're releasing what could be a very good product into a market that doesn't want it or doesn't want to pay for it. Whereas what you should do is start on the market, understand as much as you can about the market you want to sell into, the people and the customers that are in there, their problems, their issues, their solutions. The more you understand about market, you can then take those learnings and develop a product to address those needs, massively increasing your chances of overall success. Okay, so how do you get this product market fit kind of dynamic, or how do you get there? So you want to align your innovations with market demand is the first tip. The more and the closer you get that alignment between your product and your innovation and demand in the market, the better. You want to conduct iterative testing and feedback. So regularly test your ideas, your products, your assumptions to make sure you maintain that good alignment with what the market wants. You might develop something called an MVP, so a minimal viable product. That is the minimal version of the product that you could happily sell that demonstrates your value to the specific customer. You might build that early. It's not perfect. It doesn't have all the bells and whistles. It doesn't even look pretty, but it basically does the minimal function that you intend to sell. Get that out into the market and gather some feedback and improve based on what you get. And then you want to continuously refine your product forever based on customer feedback. That will make sure you're maintaining this product market fit and you're staying as relevant as possible to the actual needs of your users and your customers. So what we're doing in that case is we're going to help you do that, working through these sorts of early stage positions. The homework or the templates or the tools we're going to provide under this project will help you map out some of these areas and map out some of these aspects. Map out your personas, maybe map out your customer groups, maybe map out your target markets. They're not too complicated, but they will help not only you, but also us then identify what market you're going after, what problems you're solving, who your particular customers are, and really will help refine and accelerate any sort of commercial or innovative action you might have in the future. So I'll run you through what these are in this case, right? So what I'm going to talk a little bit about then is leveraging template materials. So template materials are great, and we're going to look at problem solution fit evaluation first of all, and then give you a couple of examples of how this actually worked for other companies at a high level, at a general level. So problem solution fit evaluation. How do you know your problem and your solution align quite well? You're going after that fit between the product and the market. So how do you do it? So the stages I'd recommend, we've gone through all of them. This is a summary nearly. One, define your problem. Clearly articulate the challenge or need of your specific problem, understand why it's important, who it affects, understand as much as you can and clearly define what the problem you're going after is. Once you've done that, try and identify what your proposed solution is. Detail your product or service unique value proposition, highlight its differentiating factors, what makes it better than competitors, what makes it better than what was there before. Really focus on defining what your solution is. Then when you have that, you want to validate both your problem and your proposed solution with your audience. Validate it with your audience. Conduct your interviews, your surveys, your focus groups. Gather feedback on how relevant the problem is and how well your solution is or how effective it is in practice. When you've gathered this information, you want to analyze compatibility. Does your solution actually solve the problem? And from experience, I've done this with many, many companies. The first time, sometimes the second and third time you do it, you realize your solution doesn't actually address that problem. It might address something further on down the line or earlier in the process. So, be prepared for that not to align until you've done this multiple times. So does your solution address the problem? Are there any gaps or misalignments between your proposed solution and the problem you're targeting? If there are, that's great. You've identified them early. You have a direction on how to improve and change, and then you can improve going forward. So the next bit then is iterate based on feedback. You've gathered this feedback, refine your solution, refine your product, refine your offering based on this feedback. Then reevaluate it with your target audience as needed. So, if you learn something from them, if they want to change, make that change and retest it. See, keep going on that iterative approach until you get to your final perfect solution. And then you want to determine fit. If a significant proportion of your audience tells you, yes, this is a problem and we see great value in your solution, you have a potential fit. You might not have a significant potential. You might have a small market and a small potential say, yeah, it's a problem and we're willing to pay for it. You then have to broaden out to try and increase that amount of people that agree. So if they don't, you return to refinement, you reevaluate, you revalidate, and you refine your option and your solution then going forward. So a couple of the examples of successful market assessments. Number one, the iPhone. Prior to the iPhone, smartphones were difficult, clunky, they were hard to use. Apple identified a market, as I mentioned previously, for more user-friendly integrated devices. And the outcome was the iPhone revolutionized smartphones. It set new standards for design, functionality, user experience, and is still one of the dominant players in this space. The second is Netflix. So Netflix streaming service. With the rise of high-speed internet, Netflix foresaw a decline in DVD rentals and identified an opportunity for online streaming. So by transitioning from their old DVD by mail service to an online streaming giant, Netflix dominates the online streaming space still to this day. Slack was similar. Slack had recognized that businesses were juggling multiple different communication tools without a unified platform, and they saw an opportunity to be that platform. So they launched a unified communication platform. It was rapidly adopted by startups and large enterprises and is now the dominant internal communication platform for an awful lot of technology-based organizations. Beyond Meat, that makes lab-grown meat, they noticed a growing trend in plant-based diets and a lack of satisfying meat alternatives. So Beyond Meat sought to create a product that mimicked the taste and texture of meat. So Beyond Meat's product gained great widespread acceptance. They even made their way into fast food restaurants. McDonald's and Burger King have this meat replacement Beyond Meat burger, which is a great success. Dollar Shave Club is one. They recognized that razors were often overpriced and purchasing them was an inconvenience. So Dollar Shave Club identified a gap in that market. So what they did is offered subscription models and direct-to-customer marketing for shaving and shaving materials. They quickly gained significant market share and they were bought by Unilever for $1 billion. So super successful very, very quickly by identifying a market assessment. And then finally was Airbnb. They identified that travelers were looking for more personalized and affordable lodging experiences, something the traditional hotels couldn't offer. So they looked at home sharing. And ever since, Airbnb has transformed the travel industry. There's millions of listings worldwide. There's multiple different concepts and competitors. There's a new focus on belonging rather than lodging. But to me, the biggest impact is they've normalized the idea of you staying in a house that you do not own, in someone else's house. So again, massively impactful by identifying changes in markets and adapting and dealing with them from then on in. So in order to support your journey and to get us from this training to the templates to the one-to-one sessions, we're going to provide 4 different tools and templates to help you gather these key areas and aspects. A market research guide and a template, a customer persona development toolkit, a problem statement formalization guideline, and then a sample product market fit evaluation framework. Okay, so each one of them, as you can see here, I'll quickly go through them. We'll send them to all of the everyone that attends after in a couple of days' time in a nice user-friendly pack. But the first one, market research guides and templates. The goal here is to provide a structured approach to gather and analyzing market information. So it defines a number of steps for you to undertake. Very early stages, if you have lots of details already, brilliant. If you don't, do it, make a first attempt at it, and then we can build from there. It looks at helping you define the objective, select an appropriate research method, identify a target audience, gather your specific data, how you're going to actually use it regarding tools, prompts you to analyze your data to look for patterns in information, and then allows you to present your key findings in an intuitive way. The second tool is a customer persona development tool. So this helps you build out a customer persona. It allows you to create detailed profiles representing segments of your target audience. So it asks you to identify the demographics of your key users, the psychographics, their interests, their hobbies, their values of your key users. It helps you elaborate the pain points, the challenges or problems they face in respect to your idea. It identifies their buying motivations. Why are they motivated to engage with your solution at all? And then identifies the preferred channels. Where did they spend their time? How can you engage and get your message across to them? The third tool then is a problem statement formalization guide. And what that does is it helps you clearly define the problem you're trying to solve by iterating out the problem elements. So it asks you to state the problem you think you're tackling or multiple variations of. It asks you to provide context of that problem. It will prompt you to highlight the impact of what happens if your problem is not solved, and then helps you define criteria for success. How will you know if you've solved this problem into the future? So the final tool then is a sample product market fit evaluation framework. And what this does is it will help you align your product and service to demands in the market. So it will help you identify your target market. Who is your target market? There could be multiple. Be as specific as possible. If you have 10, if you have 50, that's perfectly fine. How are you going to gather your potential feedback? Are you using surveys or interviews or product data? Maybe you have it already, maybe you don't. How are you going to measure satisfaction? How many of the people you've engaged with will be disappointed without your product or be very, very happy to engage with your product? And then you refine and iterate. You make recommendations and actions for improvements, make your necessary changes, and then reevaluate then in the future. So you want to identify a target market, how you're going to engage with them, the feedback you've gathered from them, and a plan to react to that feedback in some shape or form into the future. So those tools, we will provide them as tools. And what those tools will do will help us from ICP's side deliver more specific, more targeted advice to anyone who wishes to engage with the process. So they will help us do our own homework and research on your proposals and your companies and your potential innovations. It will allow us to create personalized guidance and feedback. That all of that process is supported by these template material. It will help us address specific questions and queries, and it will allow us, we will schedule one-to-one advisory sessions with respondents after they've completed and supplied the templates back to us. So the idea and the process you can see on the right-hand side. The education and discussion element is here. You attend the training, you customize the outcomes and training to your own business idea or innovation. You then template them out, you complete the templates, and you iterate and improve them until you're happy with them. You then send them on to us, and those templates come to us in ICP and allows us to schedule one-to-one advisory sessions. It gives us the early information we need, so our advisory sessions can be much more impactful as we deal directly with the issues, and we understand your position much better in more detail, much faster. So, in conclusion, the key points of what we've addressed so far. The commercialization journey, we covered the emphasis on understanding the market and clearly defining your problem. And we talked a little bit about the role in innovation in addressing these market demands. You know, we looked at market assessments, the importance of market analysis and sizing. We looked at some of the techniques like primary and secondary research for market insights. We looked at the importance of problem definition, trying to achieve clarity and identifying your pain points and crafting your problem statements, and a couple of real world examples of value that came about through market assessments. We looked and touched on customer insights, so the potential tools you could use to gather them, surveys, analytics, social media listening for understanding behavior, and then the importance of setting up a continuous feedback loop as a cornerstone for product refinement and customer relationship building. And then finally, we touched on problem solution fit, the evaluation frameworks and the tools and templates we're offering to help you align your innovation or offerings with the needs of the market, and then emphasize an iterative approach, emphasizing validation with your indicated target audience. So that is the duration of the training element. I will open the floor for any questions and we can pick it up from there. Thank you all for listening.
Thank you very much, Colin. I'll just now stop the recording. Stop recording. Stop.